Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining this last session of the 2020 Digital LGBTI Global Business Summit. I'm Brett House, Deputy Chief Economist at Scotiabank, a proud sponsor of the summit and this session. At Scotiabank, our core purpose is to ensure that our clients and the communities in which we operate are able to realize every future that they imagine for themselves. And with this purpose in mind, we're working to ensure that diversity and inclusion are at the heart of everything we do. In 2019, Scotiabank became the first Canadian bank to sign on to the United Nations LGBTI Global Standards of Conduct in Business. And to ensure that these standards don't just remain idealized, abstract notions, but inhabit the work that we do in Canada and around the world, we joined in partnership with global companies to put these standards into practice. Here in Canada, our collaboration with the CGLCC helps us to do that. Since 2017, for instance, we have been a founding partner with the CGLCC in its Out for Business program, which supports entrepreneurship with LGBTI youth. Today in this session, we're here to listen to Miss Moço talk about the power of drag. As all of you know, RuPaul once said that we're born naked and everything else is drag. Well, in this session, Miss Moço is going to talk about her naked truth.
Thank you, Brett and Scotiabank, for the intro, and thank you, CGLCC, for having me. The power of drag. Drag, a word, a lifestyle, a profession. Drag has so much more power and meaning than most understand or realize. For mainstream viewers, drag is one thing: a man in women's clothing. But drag is much more than that, much more than a singular self-identifying group of individuals. Drag is and can be and has been a very broad term for a very complex art form. My name is Miss Moço, and I am a Toronto-based drag queen outside of drag. As Adam, I identify as male and I use he, him pronouns. But when I'm in drag, I prefer she, her pronouns. Now, these are my preferences and they should not limit other interpretations of drag itself. We are far beyond the archaic times of thinking that you must be a cis male to do drag. Cis female, AFAB, trans, and gender nonconforming artists fill the beautiful world of drag queens, kings, and gender performers. Drag has evolved to a place where it is not only more inclusive for the performers themselves, but for the audience as well, thus opening their minds. Drag is fun, drag is educational, and drag is political. So many think of pride when they think of drag, and we must acknowledge those before us that fought so we can live loud and proud today. To sidetrack briefly, for sake of comparison and understanding the current political climate we are in and with the Black Lives Matter movement, not only do we need to make a change, not only do white people need to be more vocal and stand up to the injustice of Black lives lost due to police brutality, we need to educate ourselves. There is no growth without change, and for those who are not aware, the gay liberation movement started with a rebellion on June 28, 1969, known to some as the Stonewall Riots. Now, Marsha P. Johnson, a Black trans women, and Sylvia Rivera, a Latin American trans woman, who both self-identified as drag queens, and Stormy DeLarvier, a Black lesbian, are among those accredited to being there on the front lines and helping start that change. A change that I am so grateful for. This change and movement has allowed us to live an open and proud life. For me, embracing drag didn't come easily. I grew up in a small town and had my fair share of bullies. I was a quiet kid. I kept to myself and I loved to play dress up. I recall a Halloween when I was about 9 years old, and I wanted to dress up as a girl. My mother, who was and still is one of my biggest supporters, took me to her closet and let me pull a look so I could go out for Halloween as a girl. She then also bought me my first wig. I was met with a few uncertain glances that Halloween, which in hindsight contributed to my initial uncertainty becoming a drag queen. Now let's fast forward to my mid-20s. By this point in my life, I had come into my own, accepting my sexuality and exploring an androgynous way of expressing myself. I started to blur the lines with my clothing and bought my first pair of heels. But when I was asked if I would ever do drag, I would reply with almost a bit of disgust. Of course not. And I was unaware of my internal struggle with what it meant to be a drag queen. Perhaps it was the label. Miss Moço was alive and well at that point. I had adopted the nickname and had no idea that that would eventually be my drag name. But I saw her as an extension of my being and not as a performer. I was asked by two friends if I would pop on a wig and photograph myself for a party that they run and still do called Businesswoman Special. And I'm not sure what came over me in that moment, but I had asked if I could perform in drag. And I was met with an absolutely. So I was filled with excitement and fear. I was not a fan of public speaking, but I was relying on the fact that I was a competitive gymnast when I was younger. So I felt that I could perform on stage. I had no idea where to begin with my makeup application. The closest I had come to was sitting and watching my best girlfriend, childhood friend, do her own makeup in the mirror. And I ended up hiring a makeup artist to do my makeup for my debut because I wanted to start drag on a bit of a higher level for myself. And I was not aware that I was entering a new chapter of my life. Long story short, May 9th, 2015 arrived and I was about to hit the stage, and that's when, to put it nicely, my stomach fell out my back end. Kidding. But the nerves were real and I made it through my first drag performance. The adrenaline that took over was an incredible feeling. I remember how my 5-minute performance felt like 10 seconds, and all I wanted to do was get back on the stage. I was then asked by a friend right after that debut performance, "So are you a drag queen now?" To which I puffed up my chest and answered proudly, "Yeah, I guess so." And that was it. My mom called me the next day after watching video of my performance to congratulate me and to let me know how proud she was of me, and to also ask why I was wearing such a cheap wig. which must be where I get my critical eye from. And side note, I bought it from a costume shop. It was definitely a drag on a dime at the very beginning, which for most queens is. And it was a moment of being so proud to call myself a drag queen. And my mom then also offered to kickstart my newfound career with buying me 3 quality wigs, one of which I still own. Drag for me has taught me life lessons and has taken me to places I could have never dreamed of. At times, I use drag and performance to help with my own internal struggles or to combat global injustices, but mostly to entertain and make people smile. Like everything I do in life, I lay it all out with a business mindset. How can I push forward, evolve, and not get stuck in one place? I saw the potential of what drag could bring and what I could make for myself. Since my debut back in May of 2015, I moved to a new country to work on my art, and I created Miss Drag Lisboa, a drag pageant that I now fly back to Portugal on a yearly basis to host. I moved back to Toronto in 2018, where I started my weekly Sunday drag brunch at Gladstone Hotel, and that had led me to meeting Kate Blanchett, who I was then hired to surprise her at the wrap party of Mrs. America, a show she was in town filming, with a performance. And I've been featured in a national holiday campaign for Roots. And I've since opened last year my own cafe bar, Miss Pippa's, with my husband. And I've integrated drag pre-pandemic by hosting RuPaul's Drag Race screening parties at my bar. In life, I like to go by the motto, you can't rely or wait on others to get your own job done. Take chances, take risks, be different, and above all, be kind. With COVID locking us indoors, it's been even more apparent that entertainment is essential. Drag performers hit those live streams at the very beginning and played a key role in uplifting spirits during these times. I myself transitioned my Sunday drag brunch to online with the special edition and 2020's breakout star, my husband Anton, who goes by Anita Moment. She quotes herself as being a quarantine queen who only comes out in crisis. Drag has brought a power of connection during these unsettling times. The power of drag is strong and only getting stronger. Drag changed my life, and it can change yours too. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Moço. What an amazing way to wrap up the 5 days of the summit. Miss Moço is going to be right back to close out with a performance, so stay tuned. But before that, I'm going to provide a few final thank yous and remarks. This has truly been a remarkable week and summit, and I hope you agree. I believe that this event happened at the right time. We've all been through so much over the past several weeks and months. And so having this time together this past week has, in my opinion, been critical. I want to, again, thank all of our sponsors who have made this summit possible. Our presenting partner, TD Bank Group. Our gold partners, Export Development Canada and EY. Our silver partners, Business Development Bank of Canada, BMO, Global Affairs Canada, RBC, Scotiabank, and Sun Life Financial. Our award sponsor, Kellogg's. Our session and friend partners, AI Media, Bell Canada, Crestview Strategy, TELUS, and Staples. And all of our other event sponsors and exhibitors, thank you. This summit would not have been possible without their generous support, so thank you. I want to congratulate all of the winners again today, Kathy, Javier, Christian, and Kaylee for winning the EY pitch competition. I want to recognize all of our newly certified LGBT suppliers. You know, we usually do a pinning ceremony at our summit every year, and recognizing our new certified suppliers. And since we can't be together, we've decided that we would postpone that pinning ceremony until we can once again meet in person, which I hope is very soon. I want to thank the entire CGLCC board who continue to support me and my team in what we do. To CGLCC co-founder Bruce McDonald, thank you for your ongoing support of the chamber and for keeping the office candy jar stocked, very important. Thank you to the volunteers that made this event run smoothly, our amazing tech team, Niall and Carlos, Kevin for such great social coverage, and Mark for your video geniusness. Thank you again to my entire team who have worked so tirelessly to put this summit on while still keeping things running in the office. So Dale, Consuelo, Colleen, Leah, Krista, Alex, Dan, thank you. You are all simply amazing. And thank you to our significant others for supporting each of us over the past several weeks. I know it hasn't been easy, so I appreciate it. This would be the last, at this point, would be when I turn to the audience and ask if you enjoyed the summit, and I would get to see the affirmation in your eyes and see your smiles, hear the applause and cheers, at least in my mind, everybody's cheering and applauding. And so it makes it tough not being able to see and feel that energy. And Martha talked about it in her Unstoppable talk a couple days ago. I won't lie, I had a lot of fear and uncertainty going into this. In fact, Sunday night, literally hours before we went live, the team were still hard at work, making changes, doing fixes. We were about to begin a digital conference, something that we had never done before. But not only a digital summit, a 5-day digital summit. Yes, I will take complete ownership on that, and the team, I apologize for that. But reflecting on that last night, what this has done is it showed us the true capabilities of what we as an organization, we as a team, and we as a community can do. It shows that in a matter of weeks, we can pivot from a 2-day in-person conference to a 5-day virtual event with over 45 sessions, 70 speakers, and 800 attendees. It shows me that we can do whatever we set our minds to do. Some say that doing a digital summit just isn't as good as doing it in person. And absolutely, we don't get that chance to shake hands, give hugs, share a drink with people. But we need to be able to adapt and to find new ways to do business. And what a digital event doesn't provide, it makes up for in other ways. It allows us to be more accessible to everyone, no matter where you are, across the country or around the world. It enabled many of our global chamber partners to participate. It allowed my parents from out west and my in-laws south of the border to participate. And by facilitating that accessibility, we're further spreading the message of the importance of the economic empowerment for the LGBT community, the importance of creating a truly inclusive economy, which then all helps to drive social change. Because I truly believe, as I said in my opening remarks 4 days ago, economic empowerment has the ability to drive social change. In seeing so many people coming together over this week, it gives me the optimism that we can overcome all obstacles. This week has taught me that we as a community are resilient. And the messages that we heard over and over again reinforce the power of connection, and that when we come together, we are unstoppable. Who would have thought that the Prime Minister of Canada, the Premier of Ontario, and the Mayor of Toronto would all be talking about the importance of LGBT plus business? They were all talking about the importance of LGBT business. Don't lose that. And the queer political leaders on both sides of the border would be so willing to open up and share and make themselves vulnerable. We were inspired by them, and so many of our LGBT business leaders and entrepreneurs this week. We heard throughout the week about the ongoing anti-Black racism that is still prevalent and what we can do. I want us all to be like Kathleen and get mad, bang your fists on the table, and commit to doing something. At the Chamber, we're launching a People of Color Advisory Council to ensure that we're listening to and acting for a greater representation of LGBT plus community members. We can drive change, and we are creating change. Last night, we had our virtual DJ party. For those of you that tuned in for that, thank you. I'm not going to ask if you had a good time because I know you had a great time. I saw you dancing on your front steps, in your offices, on the streets, in the parks, not caring about what people thought, but rather being yourselves and embracing the connection of the others on that video stream. We have been so desperate for human connection, and I truly believe that this week was what was needed. So take this past week and use that to fuel you as you head into the new week and the new months. Remember these connections that you've made. Support one another. Be kind to one another. Be unstoppable. It is now my pleasure to welcome back to the virtual stage, Miss Moço.
I'm trying to hold my breath, let it stay this way. Can't let this moment end. You set off a dream, getting louder now. Can you hear it going? Take my hand, will you share this with me? Starting without you. All the shine, the thousand spotlights, all stars we steal from the night sky will never be enough, never be enough. Still too little. These hands could hold the world, but it'll never be enough. Never be enough for me. For me. And the day came when the risk it took to remain tightly closed in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to bloom. This is the element of freedom. Did a full 180 crazy? I'm already someone on this scary. I'm not where you left me at all. If you don't wanna see me, then tell somebody. If you wanna believe it, then you can stop me. Don't show up, don't come out, don't stop caring about me now. Walk away, you know how. Don't stop caring about me now. Aren't you the guy who tried to tell me with the word goodbye? Though it took some time to survive you, I'm better on the other side. I'm already told on me scary. I'm not where you left me at all. If you don't wanna see me, then tell somebody. If you don't believe it, then you can stop me. Don't show up, don't come out, don't stop caring about me now. Walk away, you know how. Don't stop caring about me now. You left me at all. If you don't want to see me, cause you're somebody. If you wanna believe it, anything can stop me. Don't show up, don't come out, don't stop caring about me. Walk away, walk away, you know how, don't stop caring about me now.
Nails, hair, hips, heels, face, gun, lips, real, purse, full, big bills. Yes, I'm a big deal. Legs, face, eyes, then face, thick eyes. You, me, you, wish, new tone, who, this, that's actually come. Yes, God, didn't pop that tongue. So clear, cause I run. Y'all 5, 4, 3, 2, I'm a 1. Girl, what did that girl just say, girl? Girl, I don't dance, I work. I don't play, I slay. I don't walk, I strut, and then you touch it. Okay, I don't work for free. That's not the cheap deal. Make it right on me. I might let you see. What you gonna let them see? My nails, hips, girls, nails, hips, girls, nails, hips, girls, nails, head, shoulders, knees, toes, don't touch, please, close, face, lips, eyes, nose, camera, click, we pose, be, mug, pimp, wrist, be, eye, be, this, brave, wave, blow a kiss, this thing. It's my section, come cause I win. I'm so fab, I'm done with the win. 6, 7, 8, 9, I'm a 10. Girl, what did that girl just say, girl? Ooh, girl, I don't dance, I work. I don't play, I play. I don't walk, I strut, and then you flash away. Okay, I don't work for free. You know, that's not the G. You know, make it right on me. I let you see. What you gonna let them see? My nails, hips, girls, nails, hips, girls, nails, hips, girls, nails, Okay, dolls, you don't know what time it is. Come on, everybody on the floor, everybody on the floor. Now I want you to stretch out those arms, stretch out those legs, stretch out that wrist, stretch out that weave. I don't want to see you dance, I want to see you work. Come on, drop for me, 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 drop pop for me, 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 pose 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 for me, blink for me, blink for me, go, 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 twirl me, 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 twirl. Say girl for me, girl for me, say girl for me, girl for me, say girl for me, girl for me, say girl for me, girl for me. Now snap for me, snap for me, snap, snap for me, snap for me, snap, snap for me, snap for me, snap, snap for me, snap for me, snap. Now snap for me, clap for me, clap, clap for me, clap for me, clap, clap for me, clap for me, clap, clap for me, clap for me, clap. Trade for me, 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 trade. Shade for me, 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 fan 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 for me. That's all.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, CGLCC, Scotiabank. Thank you for having me. I hope you had a great day. Have a beautiful Pride. Have a great weekend, everybody.